The kitchen is absolutely the heart of the home. Come along with me as I share with you guys the full reveal of our cottage kitchen renovation. We started with a kitchen that was tight and cramped and incredibly outdated, and we have transformed it into a beautiful, cozy, yet cheery cottage style or British cottage style kitchen that I just absolutely love. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am finally going to be sharing with you guys my full cottage kitchen reveal. This project has been extensive, but it has also been so much fun. It's officially been a year since we purchased this little cottage house. It was built in, I believe, 1941, but it was built to look just like an English cottage, and that it does. The bones of this house are incredible, both interior and exterior, but the home was very outdated and it needed a lot of love. It needed a lot of kind of just someone to come in with a vision for it, because it truly is such a gem, but it was also very forgotten, it was very outdated, and it needed a lot of work. The moment I walked into this house, I immediately saw what it could become. And I think a lot of our maybe like friends and especially family members, I remember my mom saw it for the first time, she was like, oh, it's nice. Kind of like, what the heck are you doing? But I think they all understand now just how special this house is. And I am so excited to share with you today the heart of the home, the biggest project we took on and will take on in this house. And I just adore how it turned out, and I can't wait to share it all with you. So the very first thing we did with this kitchen was actually open it up. I am actually not opposed to, you know, walls being up and rooms being separated. That's how our farmhouse was in our old house. The kitchen was kind of closed off and separated, and I didn't actually mind that. But the way that this house is, the kitchen is actually on the bottom floor. This cottage is built on a hill. So the bottom floor is where the kitchen and the dining area is. And when you walked down the steps, it was basically a narrow hallway with two separate rooms. The dining room was on one side and the kitchen was on the other side, and they were very much closed off from each other. But both of these rooms individually are not super big. So it felt very small and it felt very tight, and again, very separate. So I knew if we opened it all up, it would feel more like one big space. You could, you know, see the kitchen table from the kitchen, and it would just feel a little bit more open and airy. So that is exactly what we did. So we opened up both walls. It required permitting and beams, you know, to be put in, and our contractor was absolutely amazing. I'm gonna link his website down below if you're local to me. His name is Ken. He's basically like part of the fam now because he spent so much time here. But we started by opening up the walls. We took out the old tile floor and the old like laminate wood floor, and we made it more so into one big space. Now, when we were gutting the kitchen, one thing we kind of stumbled upon were these beautiful ceiling beams. And as soon as we opened up the ceiling, I just knew that we could not close that back up again and drywall over it. Those had to be exposed. So I think my electrician was a little bit mad at me because he had just rewired everything, and then I was like, wait, can we rewire it so the wires aren't showing? But he did it, and it looks amazing. It does make the room feel bigger. It also makes it feel brighter because we did paint it white, which, this being a bottom floor room that doesn't get a ton of sunlight based on where the sun hits the house, I wanted to do everything I could to make it feel lighter, to make it feel bigger. So I was so happy that we left the beams open. It gives it just kind of this rustic, very just like old world, like English. If you really look at English cottages, they're very scruffy. They're very almost like unfinished and have all these like odd angles and weird things, and they're not polished. So I kind of liked that this brought in that feel. So since we had ripped up all the flooring, we did have to put new flooring in, and I decided to go with tile. My first choice would have been hardwood floors. We have original hardwoods throughout the rest of the house, and I just adore hardwood floors. I think they're worth the investment. However, with this being the bottom floor and technically the basement, and we have like a sump pump, there is always the chance that that water could back up and flood this area. It's like a slim chance, but if that were the case, it would ruin the hardwood floors. So it was either like go with a waterproof laminate flooring or tile. And I know everyone loves laminate flooring. I just don't. I don't like the way that it looks, especially it doesn't look like it belongs in like an English cottage. So since that was very much the style I was going for and keeping with the style of the house, I decided to go with tile. And I found this tile from Floor & Decor, and it is so budget friendly. I really wanted to kind of mimic stone floors that you would see in an old cottage. I was kind of thinking in my mind like a Pennsylvania like bluestone or like a slate, but those are also very dark and they're very expensive. So I wanted to find something that was like lighter to again bounce light around and make it feel brighter down here because it is a darker space, but also kind of give that stone feel. And I stumbled across these tiles, and they're like large format tiles, and I thought that they were pretty perfect. I do wish they were like a teeny bit warmer, but we do have rugs down to kind of, I mean, not to physically warm up the floor, but to make it like visually look a little bit warmer, because I didn't want it to feel like cold and stark down here. But anyway, so we ended up laying them in like a basket weave pattern just to give like a little bit more interest, to make it feel a little less like perfect and streamlined. I wanted it to be a little bit more, not messy, but again, going with that cottage feel. They are very unpolished spaces, so I wanted to do something that just created a little bit more interest. Then of course we installed cabinets. So I ended up just going with white cabinetry. I got these cabinets, it's from online, it's called Lillian cabinets, and they are very good pricing, or have very good pricing. And my contractor assembled them and installed them, and in my dream world, I would have had custom cabinetry that was inset with, you know, like a custom paint color that I chose, but it just wasn't fitting in the budget. So cabinetry can be outrageous. So I decided to just, you know, go with something that was more budget friendly, simple white, which is timeless. And at the end of the day, I think I'm going to be really happy with that choice. I mean, I do like it because color trends, I feel like they kind of come and go, and eventually I would probably get sick of that very specific color I chose and want something different. So I feel like white is just timeless. You can't go wrong with white. And again, it kind of lended itself to bringing in, bouncing more light around to making the space feel brighter. For hardware, I kept it super simple, just unlacquered brass bin pulls and then unlacquered brass cabinet knobs. They are beautiful, they are understated, they are simple, and I love brass. I basically don't like any other metals, at least at this point in time. I love the warmth that brass brings, and I knew that I was gonna do some kind of unlacquered brass, and we just settled on something that was super simple. The countertops I chose, I absolutely have fallen in love with. So I actually discovered this particular countertop when we lived in the farmhouse, and we did like a smaller kitchen renovation there. Now I love, love, love the look. I love the feel. I love pretty much everything about marble countertops, but I'm just not totally in love with the maintenance side of it. Now, I am not opposed to like the patina of a marble countertop with there being scratches and different things over time. That actually doesn't bother me. However, I just could not wrap my mind around the idea of it getting stained. Now, I have 4 small kids that are 5 and under, and I really like to invite them to help me in the kitchen as much as my sanity will allow. And I was just thinking of, you know, when we're like making pizzas, and if somebody pours marinara sauce, am I gonna have like a faint red stain there forever because I didn't wipe it up right away? I don't know, that just stressed me out. So I decided I wanted quartz for the durability, but also for the price point. But I couldn't find any quartz that I liked. I searched and I searched and I searched, and I felt like they all just looked like bright white, gleaming white, way too modern. They didn't look like they're supposed to be marble, but they didn't look anything like actual marble until I came across this quartz. This particular countertop is from MSI, and it is their Calico or Calcutta Monaco. I'll link it down below. But it is more of like a gray base, and it has this pretty soft, darker gray veining throughout, and this very light white speckling. And when you look at it, it's not it's not super shiny, like it almost gives more of like a honed marble feel, which I love the look of honed marble. And that's what I would have went with as far as the finish if I did get marble. So I just absolutely love these counters. They definitely give that look of marble, but they have that durability piece to them. They look very old world, and they just are exactly the look that I was going for, and I'm so happy that I found them. And I feel like they look so good up against the brass, and then also the beadboard, which I'll get to in a second, and the color I chose to paint it. But I quickly want to talk about the sink. So we have a just ceramic white fire clay. I want to say it's a 36-inch sink. And then this beautiful faucet was actually an Etsy find, and it's unlacquered brass. And I love that it just kind of has a primitive feel to it. It really looks like a lot of the faucets that I see in like Duval kitchens. And I just love it. It definitely has already started to show signs of, you know, just everyday kind of tarnish or patina, which I like because it kind of makes this kitchen feel less new and more like it's been here for a long time. Okay, so let's talk about the beadboard. I had thought long and hard about what I wanted to do for a backsplash in this kitchen. I looked at a million different tiles and I just couldn't find anything that I really liked. And also tile is up there in price. So for a more budget friendly, but also I just think it's what belongs in this kitchen, I decided to go with beadboard. So we just got beadboard, you know, down the street from Home Depot, and my contractor installed it, and I love it. I mean, that's something that was traditionally used in kitchens, you know, a long time ago, especially in English kitchens, and it's just something that's been used for a very long time. I even have it above the range, and it has not been an issue at all as far as, you know, keeping it clean or worrying about there being like, you know, a gas fire underneath of it. It's been no problem, and I really, really love it. So the color choice that I went with is Gallery Buff by Benjamin Moore. I really wanted something that was neutral-ish, but I kind of wanted like a pink undertone. I obviously do not want a pink kitchen because, well, I don't want a pink kitchen. I'm sure my husband doesn't want a pink kitchen. But I had heard somewhere that, you know, if there's a certain like bolder color choice you want to go with, pick a more neutral color that has that undertone, so you can kind of get that feel, but without it being too loud or too, you know, bright or just too bold. And I really do love this color. I tested out a bunch, but this is the one that I landed on. And depending on the time of day and the lighting that comes in, sometimes it looks more brown, sometimes it looks more pink. But I really do love it. I love the way that it just kind of goes with everything else in our kitchen. And then I have to tell you guys about the incredible wallpaper that goes right alongside this beautiful beadboard. But before I do that, before we move on from paint, I did just want to mention that the trim color that we have throughout the kitchen is White Dove by Benjamin Moore, and it's in like the flat finish. I really like when trim is just flat. I think it looks well, sometimes I think high gloss looks like older, but in this case, I just wanted flat trim because I think it just looks a little bit more like, again, it's been there for a long time and it's not something that's brand new. But speaking of White Dove, the other half of our kitchen, so we had all the beadboard put in and we painted the beadboard, and it just looked, something just didn't look right. It just didn't look like it was cohesive. We had like half a painted kitchen and half just like a blank white kitchen. And I just, for the longest time, I was just like, this doesn't look right, but I don't really know what to do instead. And then one day I was like, duh, wallpaper. Wallpaper, I mean, wallpaper is very trendy. It's big right now. But it was so common in like old English kitchens. So I wanted to find something that was floral, that kind of gave a nod to that look. But I also didn't want something that was too overpowering. I also didn't want something that looked like too like 90s. Like I know my mom had like stenciled fruit in her kitchen, and I can remember like friends' houses growing up, they had like fruit wallpaper. If you remember in the farmhouse, we had that fruit tile, and I did not want to go that route, but I did want something that was floral, that was pretty, that made a statement, but wasn't also like too much making a statement. So I scoured the internet and I came across this wallpaper, and it is just perfection. It is from Sandberg, and it is their, I think it's called the Linea. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but I will link it below for you guys. And it's beautiful. It has these just kind of muted sage green leaves, and then it has these pink flowers throughout that are almost the exact color as the Gallery Buff paint. And that's mainly why I chose this wallpaper, because when I saw it, I was just like, that is the color that is already on my walls. So this is going to go so well together. But it's just kind of pops of pink with lots of green. And again, it's that very muted kind of taupey pink color. And I just adore it. It immediately made this kitchen so much cheerier, so much just like more fun to look at. And I feel like it brought the whole thing together. So you just kind of feel like enveloped in this like cozy kind of British inspired kitchen when you're in this space. Now, alongside the beadboard on this one wall where our sink is, we do have a window here. And I just wanted to share about that really quickly because we did make some adjustments. So having a sink in front of a window is amazing. But in this case, the window goes down really far and the countertop comes up higher than it, which is a very awkward thing to work around. It's a very awkward thing to design. So when we were in the process of actually like renovating the kitchen and everything was gutted, my contractor was really kind of pushing me towards you might just want to replace the window and raise it up, but on the outside of the exterior of the house is the stone, and so then when it would be masonry, and it would just be this, it would turn into this big expensive project. So I was just like, you know what, I'm just not going to do it. I am just going to figure out a way to put the sink in front of this window and not make it weird. So what we ended up doing was, well, two things. When the kitchen was gutted, it was originally like curved plaster walls leading into the window, which we have in the dining room as well over here. We actually had those in the kitchen of my old house, in the farmhouse, if you guys remember that. And I love that look, but it looked so awkward in this kitchen because everything is right angles. You've got counters and, you know, like cabinets, and then you had these rounded windows, and it just looked very strange. So we ended up boxing it out so everything was like right angles, so I feel like it flows so much better with having like cabinetry around it. But then the second thing we did was actually with the countertop, because you run into this issue of water could be just like running off the countertop down like into the window. So we just got this little strip, or I had, when the countertop guy came, we kind of came up with this design together. It's just very simple. It just slopes up and it sits behind the sink, and it kind of gives the faucet like little oomph behind it. Like, I love the way it looks. It looks like this like fun like design element, but it's also extremely practical, and it keeps water from running down. And I feel like it kind of pulls it back, like makes it feel like it's separate from the window a little bit. So it just feels way less awkward and kind of like it was always meant to be that way. Now moving on to my favorite part of the kitchen, and that is our beautiful range. This range is as beautiful as it is functional. It's by Ilve, and it is an Italian range. If you guys remember, in the farmhouse, we had one just like it. We actually had a black one, and we had the 48-inch. This is a 36-inch. It has 6 burners on top, and the oven, I feel like this is the perfect size. I never really needed a double oven before, and this is incredibly functional for me. I cook every single day, and I just love it so much. So not only is it incredible for cooking, but it's just so pretty. It has all of these brass knobs, has all the brass handles. Now this is, as far as I know, lacquered, because I haven't noticed any patina on these, which I actually kind of like on this. And I did go with the white this time. I wanted to do something totally different because this kitchen is just totally different. It's got a very different vibe. The style of this house is very different. And I, again, wanted to go for more light and airy and kind of playful, like that cheery British vibe. And white just felt like the right choice. Now, we didn't have a ton of space here. And if you saw in the before, there used to be like a little wall right here, and the oven was here instead. So we were able to get rid of most of that wall. There is like some HVAC stuff back here that we weren't able to completely move. So we had to have this little like wall jut out. but which is fine. I kind of like that it creates this little nook for the range to stick in, and we had enough room to put a couple of skinny little, I think they're like 9-inch cabinets on each side. So when I'm cooking, I have a place to rest bowls or rest, you know, cooking utensils. And this is definitely, you definitely need that. I think I would be kind of just like floating out here and not really knowing what to do if I didn't have these little cabinets with the countertop space right here. And then above the range, we did something very controversial. I do not have a range hood. So you technically don't have to have a range hood. In our last house, we got rid of the range hood and we just like never vented and replaced and put something new in. And it was fine. And you know, we sold the house, it was no problem. Nobody was upset about the range hood. I do not like the look of range hoods. I think I'm like probably one of a few. I think they're just so standard in kitchens that we don't necessarily like think twice about it. But I feel like a range hood makes it just look automatically like a new kitchen, versus if it's not there, it gives a little bit more of that like outfitted kitchen feel. Now this is definitely not like I think it's, the word is outfitted, where you just literally, now you saw that a lot in older kitchens, you know, here in the US in like the early 1900s, late 1800s, but also in British cottage kitchens as well, where there's literally like, there's nothing built in. It's just like hobnob furniture and you stick a sink and it's just very different. Now that's obviously not what we're going with here. We do have cabinetry, we do have appliances. It is standard in that way. But I just didn't want a vent hood. I just didn't want one. I don't like the look. I felt like it was gonna make this area feel even smaller, and this is a small kitchen, so I was doing everything I could to open it up. So we just skipped it. Even when I had vent hoods, I literally turned them on maybe like twice a year. So everyone's always like, but you need a vent hood. But I'm like, I had them and I never used them. So I don't know. I'm still alive. So anyway, no vent hood, but we did put a pot rail up here and just, you know, hang some decor just to make it look pretty. And this could definitely be functional. I don't use anything that's up here. I just leave it just to look nice, but I love that I can switch things in and out and kind of change up how it looks. And then I just stuck a piece of art up here. This is a William Morris print, which felt pretty fitting for, you know, a British inspired kitchen. And also the colors go really well, but I love that I'll be able to switch that out over time. I feel like this is good. It's good for now, but I'm always kind of on the hunt for like an oil painting that's going to fit perfectly there. But for now, I like that. And now as we move to this side of the kitchen, back here we have this cozy little nook. Originally, this is where the refrigerator was tucked behind. And if you remember, there was literally a wall right here. So it was horribly awkward. The fridge barely even fit. It was just very strange. So when we moved this wall out, it opened up the space. And originally I was thinking we would actually just keep the fridge there. But once we actually got like a full size 36-inch refrigerator in here, it looked so horribly awkward. And we did live with it like that for a while because the fridge actually moved into the laundry / pantry room that's right behind me. So the fridge now lives in there. I'm so happy it lives in there. It looks way better in here. Again, it kind of lends itself to that old world outfitted kitchen where we don't have these like big honking appliances in our face. So it also just made it feel bigger too. So the fridge moved out of there, and then I just had this empty space that I didn't really know what to do with. And I knew I wanted to add some kind of seating. I love seating in a kitchen. My dream would have been to have space for like 2 armchairs where somebody could sit down, have a cup of coffee, and have a conversation with somebody. Not that that's really happening in my life right now with 4 little kids running around, but the thought is there. But anyway, I knew I wanted a place to sit, and I knew I didn't have the space for that. So I was racking my brain to figure out what would actually fit here. And then I came across this sweet little bench that looks like it was made for this spot because it's small. It's big enough to actually sit on, but my kids actually love to sit on this. When I'm in the kitchen cooking, they'll hop up there with a snack and just kind of hang out, and it truly makes my heart so happy. And then back here, I also have a little peg rail or peg shelf up here. Now what's cool about these pegs, this little shelf, is it actually was made by the previous owner. I did not buy that. We found a few of these in the house. We actually have one upstairs. It's where we hang all of our coats in our one hallway. But I found these when I was going through the house when we bought it, and he actually hand carved all of those pegs. That is a completely like handmade shelf. He was a woodworker. He built the garage out back. He built this old, literally like classic log cabin that's like a playhouse for my kids out back. He apparently was just like the most incredible guy. I've heard nothing but amazing things about him. So I just thought this was so cool to have a little piece of him, like a little nod to the history of this house and to the amazing man who lived here and raised a family here for so many years before we took it over. And it's also just practical. We have a basket there. That's where we hang all of like our mail and bills and all the ugly things that I don't want like littering on taking up space in my kind of limited counter space. We stick in that basket. I hang up aprons there, and then more practical but pretty things. I also have a chalkboard that I found at an antique store a long time ago. It used to be in the farmhouse too, if you'll remember that. And that's where I write our dinners for the week, because if I don't, I'll literally forget what I decided we were gonna have. And then I also have this cute little window in here, and I decided to make it into a bookshelf for all of my cookbooks. So I can store them there. They're right at an arm's reach if I need them, but they're also pretty, and it's like decor, but it's functional. And then this little horse head bookend was actually from my father-in-law's house. So we inherited a couple of those that we have around the house, and I love it. And then we also have just some plates here. I've been using a lot of plates to decorate because I love plates in a kitchen, and it's also very British cottage kitchen. It fits that aesthetic. But these are actually just thrifted. I found all of them at Goodwill. They're these little like church plates. And I get questions about them actually a lot, and people ask me where I got them. I'm like, Goodwill. And what's funny is I found these all at different times. I guess in this area, there's a lot of church plates that look like this that people have donated, and I have been collecting them. So then back here, we have probably one of my favorite antiques that I have ever collected, and it is this beautiful Victorian door that I found at a local antique shop, and I found it several years ago, and I actually bought it for our old house for the big kitchen renovation we were planning to do and then decided to completely scrap. So I had this door, and I wanted to hold on to it because I knew that I would find something for it someday, or a way to use it. And it actually came from off a Victorian house in Cape May, New Jersey, which I have grown up going down to the Jersey beaches from a kid all the way up, you know, through adulthood. I take my kids down there, so it felt very special to me. And also, if you've ever been to Cape May, the houses there are absolutely adorable and stunning, and I love them. So I loved having this little piece of architecture from like a town that I love so much. So we had to really finagle this door to get into this spot. Our contractor had to cut it down and make it fit and change the doorknob to the other side. And it was a little bit of a feat to get it in there, but I'm so glad that we did. In that room, through that door, is our laundry and our like pantry. It's kind of an extension of the kitchen, and I did an entire video on that renovation as well. I'll link that for you guys if you have yet to see that, so you can see everything that was in that room. That was easily the scariest room in our house, the kind of the grossest room that needed the most attention in our house. And now it is a beautiful functional extension of the kitchen. But I did want a door here because I wanted to be able to section it off. You know, if we have company over, I want to be able to close the door and kind of hide the mess in the pantry. But then also with the washer and dryer being in there, if it's running, it's kind of noisy. If you close the door, you can barely hear it. So I really wanted a door there, but I love that you can still see through it. So the space still feels big. Your eye goes all the way to the back wall, so it doesn't feel closed off and tight in here, which when we had a typical door in there before, it did. So I could not have picked out a more perfect door, and I love that I've held on to it for all these years and finally found a place for it to just look beautiful. And then back here we have this hutch that's actually not an antique, but I found on Marketplace, and the dimensions could not have been more perfect. I feel like this was made for this little spot in the kitchen, and it gives us so much more storage. We really don't have a ton of cabinets in the kitchen. Once we put cabinets in the pantry slash laundry room, that really opened up a lot of storage for us. But before then, we didn't have very much. So this has always been key. I store, you know, spices and just different cooking utensils. And in the bottom here, I have like my Instant Pot and crock pot and bread making supplies, big mixing bowls. All that kind of stuff gets stored here, and it's really functional. But again, it also looks cute, and it is definitely more like one of those original features that you would have found in an old world kitchen, because they didn't have cabinetry, but they did have big hutches to store all of their kitchen supplies. And then on this wall here, we have this little piece of art that I found. It's just a print that I found at a local antique store, and I actually hung this in our last kitchen, and I just love it because, well, I love this like Warren Brandt print because it's got fruit and lobsters and wine bottles and flowers, and it just feels perfectly suited for a kitchen. But whatever this was, it was some kind of flyer for some kind of event in the Hamptons, and I've tried to Google it and figure out what it was, but I've never been able to find anything. So I just kind of like to imagine whatever this gourmet garden event was in the Hamptons. I'm sure it was absolutely fabulous and everyone had a wonderful time, and I just like to think about that, just, you know, like wonderful, entertaining, and it just kind of inspires me in a weird way. So I just love hanging that here in my kitchen. And then here in the center of our island, we have this island table, and there is a story behind this table. I actually got it in our very first house that we lived in, and we've moved 4 times in about 8 years. So this table has come with us through several moves, and I love it. I actually got it totally for free from a neighbor who bought it as a project piece and then just decided not to do anything with it, and they were just giving it away. So I, of course, snatched it up so fast. It is a very solid, beautiful, like wood farm table, and I actually used it as a desk for many years. And then when we moved into this house, I knew I obviously wanted some kind of island, but I didn't want a typical like cabinetry island because I felt it would just be like too heavy. It would make it feel too small and tight in here. So I knew I wanted some kind of table, whether that was going to be like a little butcher block table or a larger like island table. I didn't know. And I was looking online and in antique stores, and I just couldn't find anything. And then one day it dawned on me, I already have a farm table. Like I have something that would be perfect for this, with this like beautiful, almost like a butcher block countertop on it. And so I came in, the kitchen was still gutted. I came in with my tape measure, and me and my contractor kind of laid it out and figured out that this would actually be like a perfect fit. So I already had a perfect table. I feel like it was always meant to be here. Now it was table height, not counter height. So we did put little table extender, or I'm sorry, leg extenders on the bottom to give it like another 6 inches, which brought it up to counter height. So that was super easy. And then I did paint the legs. I think the color is High Park by Benjamin Moore. I'll link whatever this green paint is down below, but I love the green. I love green. I really love green in any kind of decorating, but especially it feels right in a kitchen. So we painted the legs and made it look brand new, but you know, not brand new. And I would say about 99% of the cooking and the prep work and all the food happens around this table. My kids drag chairs over, or they'll get up in our little tower and they'll be up there, you know, cooking with me and mixing dough and all kinds of stuff. And there's just so much life and like love that happens around this table, and it just feels so special to me, especially because we've had it for many years. And then down below here, we do have a rug that I also found on Etsy, just to kind of warm things up, because again, the floor can physically feel cold on your feet because it's the bottom floor, but also visually it can look a little cold. So the rug really warms things up, and it does get a little dirty, but we just try our best, you know, to keep it clean. I'm all about just like living in your space and not like fussing over it being like perfectly clean. And also rugs in kitchens, again, is something that was done in the past. So I kind of wanted to bring that element in. And then last but absolutely not least, I have to tell you guys about this beautiful light fixture that hangs over the island table. I adore this light fixture so much. I found it online. It's actually from Reformation, which was a splurge for me, but it was actually on clearance, and that still felt like a splurge to me, but I just fell in love with it. I couldn't find anything else that I liked more than this light. It is, it has, you know, like it's technically a chandelier. It's got 3 bulbs, and I just love the brass. Like, it just looks kind of primitive, and you can kind of see all the different knobs and screws and things, and I love that about it. It's not polished. And I also love just the way that it hangs. So a little story behind this. When I first got it, we realized, okay, this is not actually going to attach to the wall because it has this bar here. So then contractor and I had to go back to the drawing board, and he's like, well, I'll just stick some 2x4s up there, and you know, we'll just paint them and you won't even really notice them, and we'll install the light on the 2x4s. And I was like, perfect, done. But then he was working on another project at the time, and he was working on a house he said was built in like the 1850s, and they were pulling a lot of the old studs out, and he found these little 3x3s and thought this would be perfect for Matt and Becca's house. So he brought them to me, and I just about died. I said, those are perfect. Please slap them up there. They go perfectly with these beams that are notched and have holes and have lived a life. They're not like perfectly, you know, like new 3x3s by any means. And once we got it up there, my plan was to paint it. And then when I saw it, I said, you know what, I'm just gonna leave it. I think that looks so cool. I love the contrast, but I also love, like, since that wood truly is old, it kind of looks like it's always been there, and we just like found this perfect lamp or perfect light fixture to fit on this old, like these old little beams. So I just love it so much. We've got some like Edison bulbs in there, so it gives this really warm, like not stark bright light when we have this on in here, because again, we don't get a ton of light in here. So so I do have this on quite a bit, and it just feels warm. It brightens everything up, but it looks like old world. It looks like it's always been here. So there you have it, guys. That is the full kitchen reveal. We have taken this space to a tight, outdated, pretty ugly kitchen to something that is much more open and airy, yet still cozy and cheerful. It is practical, but it is also beautiful, and it is hands down my absolute favorite room in the house, but also probably my favorite project that we have ever done. Thank you guys so much for coming along this journey with me. You have seen snippets of this kitchen coming to life behind me in the backdrop of all of my videos since we moved into this house. I hope that you guys have enjoyed watching this and seeing this transformation come to life. I will link everything that I can down in the description box if there's something that you wanted to check out that I used. But that is all I have for this video. So happy to finally have revealed the full before and after for you guys. Thank you again for watching this video. Subscribe if you haven't already to join my little community here on YouTube, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.